All right, jumping back into this, what's with the underscore? Why can we use the underscore in variable names, and that's sort of the allowed rule. To illustrate the point, we will talk about variable names are generally, you don't, when you're writing a complex program or script or something like that, you don't want to name all your variables X or Y or Z or something. I mean, for one thing, you're essentially gonna, or eventually, you're just gonna run out of letters. So I mean, you say you have a program that requires more than 26. Uh, Shit, we'll just make it an even bigger number because you could do XA, YB, ZC, things like that. Say you have a variable or a script program, whatever you want to say, that requires more than 100 variables. So I mean, if you could only string them together, in that rudimentary way, you'd wind up with a script that has variables like XA equals some value, ZX equals some other value. These are not descriptive names. You have no way of knowing in the context of the script or of the program. You have no idea of knowing what the hell these values are just by looking at the name of the variable. What you're going to wind up doing in that sense is we can sort of go through this a little bit. We say ZX equals XA times, I don't know, 2, and then we could say, AA, B, C, D equals ZX plus XA minus XZ. So, essentially there's no point to that set of operations, but we're going to pretend that we don't care about any of that, and we're going to multiply that whole thing by 2. What does that whole expression evaluate to? Who cares? It's not the point. The point is that when you read expressions, computer science and programming in general is a somewhat esoteric and convoluted topic. So especially when you're writing programs and they start getting the thousands of lines and they're complex and things like that, you have ton of variables and methods and functions and whatnot floating around. And if you name them all X A Z X A A B C D, essentially someone else is going to come in and start reading your source code. There's no way that they're going to know what AAABCD is until they go back and find the value of ZX. See what's the value of ZX? Well, the value is ZX is XA times 2. Well, what the hell is XA? And they got to go back and they got to find the value of XA. And what's the value of XA? Well, XA is some value. So in our contrived example here, it's only 3 lines. It's not crazy, but when you start getting into massive programs and incredibly complicated software, these variables are not all sitting on top of each other like that. They're spread out across different files, thousands of lines of source code. You have no idea what the hell's going on. So seeing a variable name in one file, does not mean that that variable was declared in that specific file. It's in some other file, in some other module or library or something like that. You may not even have defined this variable. It could be some compiler or some interpreter defined constant. It could be defined by the operating system. It could be defined by the library you're using. There's just no way to know. So a convention that has sort of emerged, or I'm not even going to say that it has sort of emerged, the convention is that you name variables things so that it readily identifies what the hell that variable's purpose or what the purpose of the variable's value is. So what do we mean by that? Well, let's say that we have a variable. We want it to be a small representation of pi, mathematical constant. So we're just going to call it x. We're going to say x equals 3.14. We're not going to go any further than that. I don't know, maybe it's 7, something like that. But anyway, why are we calling that value x? Well, I don't know, why the hell wouldn't we call it x? Well, the reason you're not going to call it x is because we want to make the variable name expressive about the actual value of said variable. Can I actually go there and select it? Okay, there we go. So we want to make the name on the left, which is the name of the variable, refer to or sort of declare the purpose of the value that is in this variable. Does the computer care? Does it impose this restriction? Absolutely not. You could name any variable, anything you want, you know, within the constraints that we enumerated above. But, is the computer going to come back and say, well, I'm pretty sure, is it going to be Microsoft Bob or something like that and say, I'm pretty sure that's the value of pi. Did you really mean to call it X? No, it's not going to do any of that. It's going to say, hey, it's a symbol. Don't care what you call it. Take that value, stuff it in that symbol name. Anytime I see that symbol name, I will dig out that value, substitute it, and that's all the computer's going to do. But for human readability, typically you would want to call it something like that, or you might, so pi equals 3.14. So that's, anyone who comes along, get rid of this top one. Anyone who comes along now and uses this program says, oh, they may not see the actual definition of the constant because it's in some other file, but if they see that, we're making a new some other file, some other program or something, it's referring to a value in a variable, and the variable is called pi as +1. Instantly, they're just going to know, hey, do I know implicitly what this value is? Nope, because I haven't seen this defined anywhere in source code that I've been digging through. But the name of the variable is in fact pi. It's capitalized. Generally, that reflects a constant value. So I know in the context of this expression, probably without having to go look at the actual value, I know what this variable represents. So now I could, in my head, I could say, what do I think it is? Well, it's probably 3.14. And we're adding 1. X is now equal to 4.14. Again, seems is somewhat contrived. We got all right, we got some time. Somewhat contrived here, but when you're dealing with complex programs with lots of instructions, lots and lots and lots and lots of instructions, do yourself a favor, and more importantly, don't just do yourself a favor. Do the people who are going to come after you a favor, and who are going to read the code that you're writing. Do them a favor and name your variables something that is immediately indicative of what the value they're holding is. So we can get away, again, here's the example. We can get away with it up here because we're just making arbitrary things. X equals 5, who cares? We can say y equals 0, or some other, string, I don't know, times, 12 plus 31,337. It's making an appearance again. It's harkening way back to the beginning of the video series. But anyway, this is just a string of operations that we're applying. So, 0 plus 1, yada, yada, yada. We'll calculate that. We'll assign that value to y. Do we have to name this variable something that's representative of everything? Do we have to say, we have a variable and we're assigning this expression to it? To say that, this is a variable that calculates, how hungry my dog is. Do we have to do that? No, that's ridiculous. It's fun, I think it's kind of hummy, or kind of funny, kind of hummy, really. I don't know what hummy is, but anyway, I think that's kind of funny. You don't have to be that pedantic, not that explicit. That's not what we're talking about here. But if you're doing a calculation with constants, 0, as we talked about, you can't name a variable starting with numbers or anything. So, what is 0? Well, 0 is 0. What is 1? 1 is just the number 1. That's number 0. That's number 2. That's number 12. That's 31,337. So, do we have to name the variable something that is representative of this this expression over here? Generally not. Typically, anyone who comes in and starts reading your code, they know that these are constants, and you're doing some calculation in the context of your entire script or your program or something. They can probably figure out what you're doing over here. But if we were to say, x equals some value plus some other value, and the distinction here is that we're not using constants, we're inserting other variable names. So x equals some variable plus some variable times some other variable, yada yada yada, minus my mom's variable multiplied by I don't know, something amusing, Bill Clinton. I don't know why, but Bill Clinton's always funny, and we will divide that because I don't know, by George Bush. I don't know what Bill Clinton divided by George Bush is, but I'm sure it's not good. So, in the context of this, we have a variable over here, x, and what are we assigning to x? Well, if we were to come into some totally unrelated code or script, start reading through it, what do we got? We got x, we're assigning a value. What value are we assigning to x? Well, we're assigning some value plus some other value minus my mom's variable times Bill Clinton divided by George Bush. There's no way to know what the hell the values of these variables are. We're going to have to go back to the source code. We're going to have to dig up what these values are, and that's what I'm talking about. Do yourself a favor. So let's say what what would be a better name for this variable. I have no idea exactly off the top of my head what this calculation right here is going to represent, but I'm pretty sure that we can just call it insanity. So what is insanity? What as a variable? What's the value of insanity? Well, it's some value plus some other value minus my mom's variable times Bill Clinton divided by George Bush. That equals insanity. So anytime that the computer runs into the symbol or the variable name, again, terms are synonymous. Anytime it runs into that, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to insert the result of this calculation here, so that we don't have to basically cut and paste this whole thing throughout 50,000 lines of source code or something. And so again, variable names very important. Do not just name them all X or Y or N, as some math folks are apt to do. It's been a little stylistic, I suppose. Not very concrete or whatnot, but I mean, I think it's been concrete because this all makes sense to me in my head. Uh, but for trying to explain this to a general audience, it may not be so concrete because it doesn't implicitly, the light bulb has not gone off for you yet in your head. Maybe it has, um, but once the light bulb goes off and you get variables and their names and everything like that, and it all makes sense to you, then this sort of or me rambling a bit and using general sort of like pseudocode like this. I mean that kind of stuff. Well, you'll just listen to me or hear me talk and say, yep, I get that, I get this, I get that, yada yada yada. So I'm gonna end it there, and I'll jump back into variables and whatnot in the next video.